WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint, where power and politics collide.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. The midterm elections are less than 2 months away, and there's a bipartisan group that wants you to know your elections have never been safer and more secure. The North Carolina Trusted Elections Tour will host a series of more than a dozen town halls around the state this fall. This week, they'll make a stop in Charlotte Tuesday, Belmont Wednesday, and Albemarle on Thursday. Joining us now, former Charlotte Mayor Democrat Jennifer Roberts and former Republican North Carolina Supreme Court Judge Bob Orr. Thank you both for coming on. We appreciate it.
Great, thanks.
Good to be here.
This is a pilot program set up by the Carter Center in North Carolina and several other states. I'll begin with you, Mayor Roberts. Why North Carolina? Why now?
Well, as we all know, we saw some irregularities in 2020. There were some concerns about the integrity of our election process, not just here in North Carolina, but all over the country. The Carter Center has expertise in monitoring elections around the world. They wanted to bring some expertise here, but they wanted to do it locally. So that's why folks from North Carolina are working here in North Carolina. And we know that we're a swing state, all right? We have some really important elections on the ballot. We have a history of maybe, protests and a few disruptions here and there. And so we're a good state for them to try to bring some expertise and seeing, how we can help restore trust in our election system, how we can help with transparency and make sure we have a calm, peaceful process in November.
And Judge Orr, why is it important that this be bipartisan in nature?
Well, we all know that the partisan divide in this country seems to get wider and wider, and yet the election process is the real underpinnings of our democracy in this country. I mean, if we don't have elections that Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, other parties don't have confidence in, then you're eroding the confidence in our democratic process and in our government. And so it's critical to have people of both parties, and really have been pleased with the response from a number of Republicans who have worked over the years with the election system, and they've been more than willing to appear on panels and talk about all the things that work in North Carolina.
As part of this Trusted Elections Tour, you're hosting town halls in each congressional district across the state of North Carolina, each with a set of speakers that you just alluded to. Mayor, what can people expect if they come to one of these town halls? There's several of them in the Charlotte area this upcoming week.
Absolutely. So we're going to have experts who have been working on elections for literally decades talk about the process. The average voter goes, fills out their ballot, and leaves and doesn't think about what happens to your ballot afterwards. But there is a lot of preparation. There's a lot of safety and security. There are backup measures in place. There are backup measures in case, a storm takes the lights out and the machines have to get on a generator. These are all these things that happen that make sure your ballot counts, that your vote counts, it's safe and secure, there's not double voting. And people are going to hear from county election directors. They're going to hear from county board members, a Republican and a Democrat, because each of our county boards have 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And they're going to hear from attorneys who will talk about what do the courts do? What are some of the lawsuits you've heard about? How are things resolved through a legal process, through a peaceful process, through the rule of law? And, how do we know that your rights are being protected? And those panels have really told some great stories. We've had 3 events up to now, and we've just heard really interesting stories about things that have happened that our election officials have handled and resolved.
Bob Orr, what's the end game here? After the town halls, what does success look like for this group?
Well, as Jennifer indicated, this is a pilot project on behalf of the Carter Center. There are 3 other states that are doing similar programs in Georgia, Arizona, and in parts of Florida. But I think the end game for us in the 2022 cycle is to see what works, what didn't work, what needs there are, and how the Carter Center can take what we've learned here in North Carolina and these other states, and going into the 2024 presidential election, try and expand these programs around the country to other states. And I do want to emphasize, one of the things we've learned in all of this is the extraordinary pressures and, in some cases, hostilities towards election workers and election officials. And one of the really rewarding aspects of what we're doing is the response from these officials about how important this effort is, so that the public understands that, I mean, this isn't just a simple process where you show up on election day. I mean, it is a sophisticated 100-county operation under a framework of laws and regulations with 7.4 million North Carolinians registered to vote. So it is an enormous process, and part of this is to help and support the election workers, Republicans, Democrats across the state.
More of our interview right here next on Flashpoint.